Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Tourism and Hospitality Service Management, SOTHSM, Bachelor of Arts, Facility and Services Management, BAFSM, Semester I, BFO 003 Basics of Facility Management, Unit 6 Infrastructure Development 1, 6.0 Objectives. After reading this unit, you will be able to understand the fundamental concepts of infrastructure development like architectural, design, building types, and impact of facilities on the building design. Know the building exterior facilities, parking areas, landscaping grounds. Know about the various laws, permits, licenses for building construction. 6.1 Introduction. Architecture requires involvement of client, financial institutions, consultants, experts, architects. The profession requires highest level of conceptual managerial skills to achieve the success. To be a successful building designer or facility manager, one has to have basic knowledge skills such as legal requirements for a building, different layout plans for commercial, residential, welfare, institutional, basic understanding of building exterior facilities, parking areas, landscaping grounds. Various experts have different opinions about the word architect. Architecture is frozen music, it's the art of what is possible. Paul Rudolph, architecture is a strange field where we are constantly asked to demonstrate over why design matters to everyone all the time. Amlandraus, architecture is 90% business, 10% art. Albert Kahn, architecture is shelter, it's like life. Chavez, 6.2 Architectural design. Architectural design is a technological and artistic concept of designing or fabricating structures and understanding various building materials and forms. Generally, the architect works in coordination with the internal and external environment of the structure. Architecture design begins with designing and planning buildings. The aspects of architecture differ from engineer to engineer, who basically focus on the functionality, feasibility, and design. Architecture designs are the incorporation of creative imagination and then moving it on the piece of paper. This profession demands excellence in computer operation, legal knowledge, engineering, building codes. The importance of architectural design. Architecture has a great impact on its surroundings. When it comes to raising a new structure, not only the safety measures and durability issues are important, but also the design and aesthetic appeal, which has the ability to leave a sense of wonder behind. The architectural design of the highest quality will impress and amaze its audience with its distinctiveness and style. People always live in homes and cities that energize and give them hope. It is depressing to live in a grey world, which would only further kill your creativity and imagination. Application areas of architectural designs. 2D drafting architecture. It is used to refer floor plans, wall sections, elevations, lighting, furniture layouts, foundation plans, and roof sections. 3D architectural modeling services. It is used to generate 3D exterior models, 3D interior models, cross-section models, and fixture assemblies. It is also used in landscaping, drawings, 3D architectural rendering, 3D exterior rendering views, 3D interior rendering views, furniture 3D rendering, and 3D product rendering can be achieved by it. 3D animation and walkthrough. It includes services like exterior walkthrough, interior walkthrough, conceptual walkthrough, and industrial walkthrough. An architectural design is nothing but the idea to shoot the higher quality construction work. This kind of ideas come from various sources like proper analysis of a site, society or culture, of the area you are going to construct. Space and place connect with the emotions, different technologies and methods, a variety of functional requirements, etc. The phases of project designing and building or planning and constructing a space for a new or growing business is a complex task. One way to make a complex task seem more manageable is to break it up. into smaller tasks, and architects apply a similar strategy to the design and construction process. The American Institute of Architects, AIA, defines 5 phases of architecture that are commonly referred to throughout the industry: 1. Schematic design, 2. Design development, 3. Contract documents, 4. Bidding, 5. Contract administration. Being familiar with each phase's milestones and deliverables is also important because architects typically organize contracts and project schedules around them. Pre-design. Pre-design is an information gathering phase that will be the foundation for the design phases to follow. The main goal during this phase is to ensure to gather the information about the requirements from a facility such as total area, total covered area, total plinth area, space for parking, space for landscaping, space for office administrations, space for manufacturing units, space for storage space, total number of expected visitors, employees, vendors, to estimate the carrying capacity of the facility, profile and lifestyle and needs, as well as determine how much space you need now and likely to need in the future, and how that space should be used, organized, and arranged. This information is organized into a document called the program, which describes all the rooms and spaces for the project, their approximate sizes, and any specific qualities or unique features you are looking for. The other part of pre-design phase is observing and documenting the existing conditions at the project site. This usually entails a survey of the land to determine the property line locations and/or measurements of any existing structures. We also do background research to better understand how the site relates to the surrounding area, climate, people, and the regulations that affect the project. Being a facility manager, you have to track these regulations in a zoning summary document and talk to city planning staff if questions arise. Schematic design. This is the start of exploring design concepts. It is the time for testing options and getting a general idea of the look and feel. The floor plans and shape of the project will begin to take form, but the specifics about materials and details will come later. The schematic design phase includes several meetings where ideas are presented to the clients using images of other projects, hand sketches, and models to help visualize the size, shape, and relationship of spaces to each other. All the ideas are listened and reactions are observed, then ideas are refined according to the feedback until reached to an agreement upon design direction to develop further in the following phases. It is always possible to make changes later, but it is easiest during this phase when the design is most fluid. Design development. During design development is based on the floor plan and exterior concept approved in the schematic design. The first priority of this phase is to define and develop all the important aspects of the project and produce a set of drawings and outline specification to show potential contractors for preliminary cost estimating. If adjustments are necessary to bring the project scope in line with the construction budget, it is most efficient to do this sooner than later. Once we know we are on track, we will talk more specifically about the interior and exterior materials and functionality. By the end of the design development phase, the building exterior will be more fully designed, the interior layout completed, dimensions of all spaces finalized, and most materials selected. A structural engineer will be added to the team, and consultants for HVAC, plumbing, and electrical systems may be needed depending on the complexity of the project. The deliverable will be a more detailed set of drawings that communicates the overall layout and volume of the building or space, all significant equipment, and the type of material or finish for every surface of the project. Construction documents. In this phase, we develop the design drawings into a thorough and precise set of construction documents. These drawings and specifications have all of the details, dimensions, and notes necessary to communicate the entire design intent to the builder. We show how the building components should be connected, specify all of the materials, finishes, fixtures, equipment, and appliances to be installed, and coordinate our drawings with the structural engineers and any other consultant drawings. The construction documents phase often requires the most time, which can surprise clients because the design seems complete after design development. However, this is a critical step in the process of successfully and accurately executing the design, building permitting. During this phase of building permitting, necessary construction documents are developed and any additional information required to get a building permit. This is the information needed to show the project complies with the applicable land use, building, and energy codes and any other applicable guidelines and regulations required by the city or jurisdiction issuing the permit. During this step, drawings are submitted to various approval agencies for their approval and no objection certificate and monitor the progress during the review period. Also, give additional information or clarifications as requested. Bidding negotiation. In this phase, vendors are identified on the basis of value analysis and selections of vendors are done on the basis of their qualifications, experiences, warehouse capabilities, rate, quality, quantity, and delivery performances. Construction administration. While most of the architect's work is done before any building begins, but consistent presence during the construction phase is equally important. During this phase, visit the job site at regular intervals to answer questions from the builder and proactively address potential issues. The frequency of site visits could be weekly or monthly depending on the project needs, but it is vital to keep an eye on things to ensure that the finished project on time meets the expectations. Inevitably, some decisions must be made or modified in the field. Involvement and ability to work quickly with contractor to solve problems is essential for helping avoid costly delays and change orders. At site visits, take photos and write field reports to document the progress, confirm the materials and workmanship are of the quality you agreed to, and verification of contractors' billings accurately, which reflects the amount of work completed. 6.3 Building types. Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, MOHUA, explains a building to be a structure constructed using any type of material, and for whatever purpose, be it for residential, commercial, industrial, or other. The structures that fall under the definition of a building are as follows: foundations, plinths or pedestals, walls, floors, roofs, chimneys, plumbing, drainage, structures, fixed structures, etc., verandas or atriums, balconies, cornices, projections in the building which extend beyond its exterior walls, etc., all the various components that comprise the building or any structure attached to it, fences or boundary walls enclosing an area, land or building. Signboards or display structures outside the boundary walls or above the structure, etc., tanks constructed for the purpose of storing fluids or other materials such as chemicals, water, effluents and swimming pools, ponds, etc., temporary structures such as tents, shamianas and tarpaulin shelters which are built to serve a particular purpose for a short duration of time have been exempted and are not to be considered buildings. Building types. The government has categorized various types of buildings on the basis of different criteria, depending on their usage, design and height, safety standards and other features as follows: residential buildings, educational buildings, institutional buildings, assembly buildings, business buildings, mercantile buildings, industrial buildings, storage buildings, wholesale establishments, mixed land use buildings, hazardous buildings, detached buildings, semi-detached buildings, multi-story or high-rise buildings, slums, unsafe buildings, special buildings, multi-level car parking, categorization of buildings as per their usage, residential buildings. These are buildings which are used for normal residential purposes and should facilitate activities such as sleeping, living and cooking. The building must include one or more family residencies, apartments, flats, and private garages. Educational buildings. These are buildings housing educational institutions such as schools or colleges which are affiliated and recognized by an appropriate board, university, or any similar affiliation authority. The building should promote the aggregation of instructional, educational, and recreational activities pertaining to educational purposes. Further, it is obligatory for the building to have proper residential facilities for essential staff who need to reside within the campus. Apart from this, the institution should also have a hostel exclusive to the institute, either within its premises or outside. Institutional buildings. These types of buildings consist of buildings that are constructed by the government, semi-government organizations, or registered trusts for specific purposes. Those specific purposes include medical treatment purposes such as treatment of physical or mental illness, children's hospitals, old age homes, centers for the care of orphans or abandoned women, auditoriums, or complexes meant to be used for cultural or allied activities, religious accommodation, facilities such as dharmashalas, jails, correctional facilities, detention centers, juvenile, reformatories, etc., assembly buildings. These are defined as buildings or parts of them which houses public gatherings congregated with the intent of amusement, recreation, social, religious, patriotic, civil, travel, or other similar purposes. Buildings such as movie houses, drama theaters, drive-in theaters, assembly halls, clubhouses, town halls, auditoriums, exhibition halls, museums, regional offices, gymnasiums, sports complexes, restaurants, boarding houses, dance clubs, gymkhana, places of worship, bus stops, taxi stands, railway stations, airports, piers, etc. are categorized as assembly buildings, business buildings. These buildings are primarily used for keeping records of business transactions, maintaining accounts, bookkeeping purposes, or managing other types of records. Then it can be classified as a business building. Buildings under this category include offices, banks, courthouses, and other professional establishments serving the aforementioned purposes. Mercantile buildings. In these types of buildings, either the entire building or a part of it is used for housing shops, stores, or showrooms where display and sale of wholesale goods, retail goods, or merchandise is carried out. Such buildings should also accommodate office, storage, and service facilities essential for the business, which should be located in the same building. Industrial buildings. Industrial buildings are used to manufacture, assemble, or process products or materials are termed as industrial buildings. They include manufacturing units, assembly plants, factories, mills, power plants, oil refineries, gas plants, dairy plants, laboratories, etc. Storage buildings. These buildings are used for the storage of commodities, goods, merchandise, etc. Then it is categorized as a storage building. They comprise buildings such as warehouse, cold storages, grain storage units, barns, stables, freight depot, transit shed, hangars, truck terminals, public garages, etc. Wholesale establishments. Buildings under this category include establishments being fully or partially utilized for wholesale trade and manufacture, wholesale shops having required storage facilities, or warehouse and establishments providing truck transportation services and or truck transportation booking services. Mixed land use buildings. These are buildings which are used for both residential purposes as well as for carrying out non-residential activities. Hazardous buildings. These types of buildings have been further divided into two subcategories by the government. They are buildings used for the manufacture, processing, handling, or storage of substances which are radioactive, highly combustible, explosive, or capable of burning rapidly, without the potential to produce poisonous fumes or emissions that are explosive in nature. Buildings used for the manufacture, processing, handling or storage of substances which are highly corrosive, toxic or noxious alkalis, acids or other chemicals. Producing explosive or poisonous fumes, explosive mixtures or substances capable of disintegrating matter into fine particles causing spontaneous ignition, categorization on their design height, detached buildings, a building comprising roofs and walls which is detached from any other building and has open spaces within its boundaries is termed as a detached building, semi-detached buildings. These are buildings which are detached from any other building on three sides and have open spaces on all those sides, multi-story or high-rise buildings, all buildings comprising more than 2 stories and or buildings with height more than 0.7 meters without stilt or 8.5 meters with stilt above the average level of the front road have been categorized as high-rise buildings. Categorization on the basis of safety standards, slums, buildings under this category have a low level of maintenance and bad habitability, conditions which are caused due to inadequate sanitation, ventilation and other detrimental factors. Slums are tagged according to the concerned legislation by a competent authority. Unsafe buildings, buildings that are structurally weak and thus unsafe, unsanitary or contaminated, do not have proper entry and or exit facilities, prone to fire hazards, poses dangers to human life, or according to its existing use, may pose a danger to safety, health or public welfare are deemed to be unsafe. As per government regulations, these buildings must undergo restoration, demolition or undertake necessary measures as per the instructions of the concerned authority. Special buildings, this is an all-encompassing category which includes assembly buildings, industrial buildings, wholesale establishments, hazardous buildings, hotels, hostels and buildings with central air conditioning which are more than 15 meters in height and have a built-up area of more than 600 square meters. 6.4 Impact of facilities on the building design. One of the most famous buildings in the New York skyline, the Empire State Building, underwent a $550 million environmental upgrade in 2011. Improving insulation, implementing energy-saving technologies and refurbishing 500 windows cut the building's annual energy usage by a substantial $4.4 million. When renovating or designing any facility, efficiency can be improved by careful design and planning. The design and layout of a facility has a powerful impact on manufacturing operations. An efficient layout can facilitate an increased flow of work, information, and material around the site. If a factory is not designed with efficiency in mind, it can limit production, slow processes, and impact overall profitability. Considerations when designing or renovating a production facility, space, production, safety, and convenience are all of the utmost importance. For the majority of plant managers, it is imperative that the factory design allows for the facility to have efficient production and storage capabilities in order to maximize productivity. There are a number of ways that a facility can be designed to achieve this goal. Software tools such as Building Information Modeling, BIM, 3D modeling software for building design can be used to understand how the design or construction of a facility will impact how it operates and minimize design errors. It can also be used to analyze how complex variables work together, including water, airflow, and ventilation. The building as a whole can be optimized during the design stage, but the production line should also be optimized for efficiency. In an efficient production line, there is a smooth process flow from raw material to finished product to avoid paperwork or parts being misplaced. This can be done using design and planning software applications such as AutoCAD, which allows the designer to view and analyze a digital factory model space. When planning movement around a production manufacturing unit, it is important to optimize the space so that it fits production needs whilst making the best use of the available area. This can be achieved by reorganizing the warehouse or even by constructing a mezzanine floor above the production facility. Though it is important to consider the best layout of machines and equipment, in factories where humans work alongside robots, the space should be designed with people in mind, the human touch engineering. Improving the working environment for staff can increase productivity. A facility that is light, well ventilated, and temperature regulated will encourage worker productivity and increase staff satisfaction. Once the facility is up and running, the plant manager can take advantage of smart factory technology, using real time information to make intelligent decisions. From concept to construction to operation, steps can be taken to make a production line more efficient, productive, and cost effective. If a facility is designed with efficiency in mind, the manufacturer can stay ahead of its competition for the long term, cementing its place in the marketplace, just as the Empire State Building has in the New York skyline. 6.5 Building exterior facilities. When you think about your business, you often consider your daily operations, employees, finances, and marketing tactics. What may not come to mind, however, is your building's exterior. This small factor can have a significant impact on your company's success. Advantages of exterior facilities. A. It can draw in more customers. If your building offers an appealing design, it will catch people's interest more so than a bland and outdated space. You can use this interest to your advantage by inviting people inside or hanging up signage that denotes what you do. According to one survey, 76% customers have entered a new store merely based on its signs. If you're thinking about upgrading your exterior, research what your current customers want. For instance, you could send out a survey and ask them about which improvements they'd like to see you make. You can also check out what your competitors are doing. B. It can show that you care. No matter the type of organization you run, a polished exterior will make your business look more professional. It helps build a professional reputation for your company and sends a message to passers-by. If you care about your appearance, it tells customers you will care about them too. On the other hand, a sloppy appearance, such as overgrown landscaping, discolored siding, and an ill-maintained roof, point out that you might not care. If you don't have time to make your business look good, will you have time to meet your customers' needs? C. It can improve safety and security. A building exterior that's in tip-top shape is less likely to cause safety issues, such as rotting materials that can fall off and injure someone. Maintained sidewalks can prevent trips and falls, which could lead to a lawsuit. A well-maintained building will also deter many would-be criminals. For instance, since more than 10% of the building crimes occur in parking lots or garages, adequate lighting can scare off offenders and keep your employees and customers safe. D. It can protect against complaints. If you have a lackluster commercial building, you may find that clients often voice their concerns. For example, they may not like that you have an uncovered entrance or that your stonework needs a good power washing. In turn, these annoyances may cause them to take their business elsewhere. With a stunning exterior, you can avoid these complaints and ensure your customers are happy. Some ways you can enhance your exterior include putting in a ramp for wheelchair access, adding a display window to show off your products, or paving your parking lot and walkways. Adapting your building for accessibility is often a resourceful and helpful way to get more customers in, as they will have greater ease of access. E. It can prevent degradation. When you regularly maintain your building's exterior and keep it in pristine condition, this prevents degradation and adverse impacts on the building's performance. The result is instant savings. For instance, with no maintenance plan, moisture can get into the exterior wall assembly, a problem that will cause cracks, dry rot, mold and peeling paint, your roof will also see wear and tear. While a roof's insulation typically lasts 25 years, you will still need to repair and replace sections over time, which can enhance your building's appearance and increase its lifespan. 6.6 Parking areas. A parking area space is a location that is designated for parking, either paved or unpaved. Parking spaces can be in a parking garage, in a parking lot, or on a city street. It is usually designated by a white paint-on rectangle indicated by three lines at the top, left and right, of the designated area. The automobile fits inside the space either by parallel parking, perpendicular parking, or angled parking. Depending on the location of the parking space, there can be regulations regarding the time allowed to park and a fee paid to use the parking space. When the demand for spaces outstrips supply, vehicles may overspill park onto the sidewalk, grass verges, and other places which were not designed for the purpose. Check your progress to 6.6.1 Different types of parking facilities. A. Parking lots. These are areas that are designated for parking. The parking spaces are usually marked out on the ground with thick yellow or white lines. You can usually find parking lots near business places, supermarkets, restaurants, and more. They are usually opened most of the time. On the other hand, other improvised lots are assigned for specific events and are only opened for that purpose. B. Parking garages. These parking facilities are often referred to as car park parking, structure parking, building parking, ramp parkade, or parking deck. There are several types of parking garages, which include single-level parking garages, multi-level or multi-story parking garages, underground parking garages, automated parking garages, C. Carports. These are private covered places next to a driveway at your home where several cars can be parked. When we say covered, we don't mean that they have four walls. They usually have two, with one wall usually being part of the house's wall. The carport is aimed at protecting the vehicle from bad weather conditions. D. Parking spaces on the side of the street. There are spaces on the side of the road designated for parking. These spaces are usually metered and you can tell where they are easily identified by looking for the outlined squares, yellow or white paint spaces. EAPS, automated parking systems. These are systems that mechanically move cars from the entry area to a free parking space inside the area. They don't need any workers to help with the process. They are sometimes referred to as a mechanical robotic rotary parking systems, automatic stacker parking, or underground parking garages, among other things. F. Semi-automated parking systems. These systems use mechanical systems to move cars to their parking spaces, except that they need to be attended to by a driver or an employee. 6.6.2 Types of parking. 1. On-street parking. On-street parking means the vehicles are parked on the sides of the street itself. This will be usually controlled by government agencies itself. The standard dimension of a car is taken as 5 by 2.5 meters and that for a truck is 3.75 by 7.5 meters. 2. Off-street parking. Off-street parking means vehicles are parked off the street itself. This will be usually controlled by commercial contractual agencies itself. 3. Parallel parking. The vehicles are parked along the length of the road. Here there is no backward movement involved while parking or unparking the vehicle. Hence, it is the safest parking from the accident perspective. However, it consumes the maximum curb length and therefore only a minimum number of vehicles can be parked for a given curbed length. This method of parking produces least obstruction to the ongoing track on the road since least road width is used. 4. 30-degree parking. In 30-degree parking, the vehicles are parked at 30 degrees with respect to the road alignment. In this case, More vehicles can be parked compared to parallel parking. Also, there is better maneuverability. 5. 45-degree parking. As the angle of parking increases, more number of vehicles can be parked. Hence, compared to parallel parking and 30-degree parking, more number of vehicles can be accommodated in this type of parking. 6. 60-degree parking. The vehicles are parked at 60 to the direction of road. More number of vehicles can be accommodated in this parking type. 7. Right angle parking. In right angle parking or 90 parking, the vehicles are parked perpendicular to the direction of the road. Although it consumes maximum width curbed length required is very little. In this type of parking, the vehicles need complex maneuvering and this may cause severe accidents. This arrangement causes obstruction to the road track, particularly if the road width is less. However, it can accommodate maximum number of vehicles for a given curbed length. 8. Parking spaces for the disabled. Some parking spaces are reserved as accessible parking for disabled individuals. Disabled parking spaces are typically marked with the symbol of access, though in practice, the design of the symbol varies widely. 6.6.3 Multiple level car parking. It is a building, or part thereof, which is designed specifically to be for automobile parking and where there are a number of floors or levels on which parking takes place, is essentially a stacked car park. Multilevel car park term originated in UK. In US it is called a parking structure. Types. 1. Manually operated, non-mechanized with ramps. 2. Mechanized, classified in different type based on technology, times mini, times puzzle, times tower. In order to accommodate the large volume of vehicles, small cities and towns must develop their infrastructure. One solution may be a multi-level car parking system to maximize car parking capacity by utilizing vertical space rather than expand horizontally. With land in metros and great cities becoming scarce and dearer, and plots getting smaller, conventional parking is proving infeasible. Salient features of multiple-level car parking: intelligent buffering system offering zero wait time for the public, dynamic peak hour management to configure the system in line with the demand pattern, flexible, scalable and modular design to accommodate wide range of layout and capacities and offers seamless capacity addition. Simple design by the way of electrical push-pulls mechanism with direct drives, use of electrical drives to optimize power consumption, intelligent emergency management system via manual override option, advantages, space-effective space savings upwards of 70%. Freeing the space at ground level for better commercial use, reduced total cost of ownership, environmental friendly as ramps are avoided, higher throughput and faster operations, capability to handle 40 to 60 cars an hour, 6.6.4 necessity of MLCPS, multiple level car parking, optimal utilization of space, mechanical car parking system is a method of parking and retrieving cars by using pallets and lifts. It thus removes the need for lengthy driveways and ramps, accommodating maximum cars in minimum space. Multiple level car parking, MLCPS, is flexible enough to solve varied parking problems. It can be sited above or below the ground or a combination of both and designed to accommodate any number of cars. Lower construction cost. MLCPS are cost-effective in terms of construction cost. MLCPS are delivered prefabricated, which are assembled on-site. As the system is operated automatically, added expenses of underground parking such as building structure, providing lighting and security are avoided. Low maintenance and operational cost. Operating cost is low since mechanical car parking systems requires less energy to run. There is no need for energy-intensive ventilating systems as the cars are not being driven inside the parking lot. Cladding can be specially selected to match the building's facade, Safety of vehicle. MLCPS provide complete safety to a vehicle as parked cars are not accessible to anyone else. Damages or a dent to the car is avoided while parking through narrow driveways, environment friendly. One of the greatest benefits related to conventional underground or open space parking is the saving of ground space. Outdoor space saved can be put to good use with gardens and landscaping or additional buildings. It also significantly reduces noise and other pollutants. Benefit to a driver. Car driving now can become a pleasant experience. Mechanical car parking systems makes parking easier and less stressful as the driver does not have to drive through the entire parking lot looking for a place to park, nor do they have to attend the car when it is parked, thus saving a lot of time. Difficulty in parking in a tight corner is also eliminated. 6.7 Landscaping grounds. A landscape is the visible feature of an area of land. Its landforms to create an aesthetic appeal and integrate with natural or man-made features. Landscaping refers to any activity that modifies the visible features of an area of land, includes flora or fauna commonly called gardening, the art and craft of growing plants with the goal of creating a beauty within the landscape, fountains, sound and light effects, and water bodies. 6.7.1 Importance of landscaping. Landscaping allows different species of plants to flourish in their natural habitat, free of pests and insects. They are provided with an adequate amount of water, good quality of soil, and sunlight to grow and nurture. It also helps in protecting and conserving endangered plant species carrying medicinal properties. Nowadays, landscaping is using as an effective tool to conserve the water also by using canal cavity techniques, preservation and conservation of natural flora and fauna. The most significant advantage of having a landscape is the preservation of nature. Urban architecture is full of wooden decking and concrete flooring. People have started acknowledging the importance of plants and trees in their lives. Landscaping offers solutions to various environmental issues and protects natural resources and ecology. To reduce pollution, a smart garden helps in reducing pollutants in the environment. Many manufacturing, for example, ONGC, NTPC, IOC, GAIL, BAIL, BARC, and hospitality companies including ITC, Oberoi Group of Hotels, Indian Hotels Company, Lords Group of Hotels, UP Hotels Limited have come forward to adopt a garden-in architecture. Landscaping helps in purification of the air in the nearby surroundings, which helps in purifying both outdoor and indoor air quality, protects plants. Plants are a vital part of our biological life cycle. Landscaping allows different species of plants to flourish in their natural habitat, free of pests. They are provided with an adequate amount of water, good quality of soil, and sunlight to grow and nurture. Protection from heat. Landscaping is excellent ideas to promote greenery in the concrete cities as everyone finds solace in a tree shade during hot summers. This shows the importance of plants and trees in our lives. Landscaping offers the concept of pocket parks or small parks that allow people to relax from their hectic urban lifestyle. Water management conservation. Our country is running out of wetlands. Plan and smart landscape is the solution for this dangerous situation and a natural way to curb this issue. Wetlands are responsible for controlling floods and managing biological diversity, offers outdoor recreation. Beautiful landscape fascinate the human beings from centuries. Landscapes are an excellent means of outdoor recreation. This will boost the physical well-being of the local population. Kids always enjoy playing in landscapes and simultaneously can learn about conservation of the environment, improve mental health. From centuries, sitting for some time in the lap of nature can have a positive impact on a person and his state of mind. This exercise enhances the productivity of working individuals by boosting their confidence and concentration levels. In other words, more green spaces indicate better psychological health. 6.7.2 Principles of landscaping. Principles are certain facts that act as the foundation for a set of beliefs. Landscaping is one such field that also has certain principles based on which they are designed or made. Gardening has become more and more popular in the present day situation as its importance is being realized by us. The bare land is being landscaped to make it beautiful. But landscaping it with the correct principles makes it a visual treat to everyone. The natural landscapes with the tall mountains, hills, valleys, rivers, and plants do not fail to amaze anyone. The similar imitation like nature should also be a perfect blend of all the features in the right proportion. Basic principles in landscaping. Background. The background serves as a main component of any landscaping, and creating a wall of trees or tall trees or a hedge helps in designing a background. The background must be neutral to support the other features of the garden. Contrast. The contrast can be provided by using the color, a floral bed with yellow and violet color flowers, or texture, a spiky-leaved plant with a smooth textured leaf plant, or, with form, a tall form combined with a spreading or bushy plant. This is most important element in all landscapes irrespective of its size and helps to break the monotony of the balance. Balance is the most important feature and looked into in case of a formal garden or a symmetrical garden. In the case of an informal garden, the balance can be achieved by balancing the features but not exact with similar ones in terms of size or number, i.e., a hedge at one side balanced by a cedar or a rock on the other side. Proportion. It refers to the size of each element with reference to the other. The proportion of the different features of landscaping such as balance, contrast, background, rhythm, variety, etc. The proportion will make the objects look taller or smaller in size, i.e., a tall tree in front of the house will make the house look smaller and a bushy tree in front of a house will make the house look bigger in size. The phenomenon of illusion is being played within the principle of proportion. So, choosing the plants with the right proportion has the utmost importance. Repetition. This principle helps in achieving a rhythm in the garden. In the case of a formal garden, the same feature is being repeated, a set of 3 or 4 circular hedges. In the case of an informal garden, it may not be the same. The repetition, when done with different textures and colors, it will provide good contrast and will be visually appealing. Rhythm. Rhythm in a landscape is about repetition and the strategic placement of elements that contribute to a garden's underlying structure. Rhythm enhances the unity and beauty of the garden. The random placement of the various features such as flora, fountains, etc. will not look good as a whole. For creating a rhythm, an artistic sense is required that combines all the principles like balance, proportion, repetition, and contrast, and careful use of these principles is required to enhance the rhythm. Variety. Variety breaks the monotony of the garden landscape and also helps in beautification. Variety can be achieved by the use of different colors, forms, texture, planting, seasonal flowers, herbs and spices. 6.7.3 Key elements of landscape design. All designs, whether on a canvas, in a magazine, or in the landscape, draws upon common tools of composition. These elements of design include mass, form, line, texture, and color. In the landscape, they are used to transform space and create a unique experience. While color and texture add interest and richness to a design, it is mass, form, and line that are critical to organizing space and providing structure. Understanding these key design elements is the first step in creating a harmonious, unified landscape. Rectilinear design, top left, and angular design, top right, provide the same function and visual connection to the surrounding landscape. Line in landscape design is used, carry the eye through a landscape, create physical flow and connectivity, vertical lines carry the eye skyward and are useful in expanding small spaces. Strong horizontal lines can make a space feel broader. Lines also elicit emotional responses. Straight lines are formal and direct, while curved lines are more gentle and natural. Consider line when shaping beds and walkways, or in choosing hardscape elements such as fences. Visualize how a straight or curved line might direct the eye through the landscape toward a focal point. In both designs, the primary line of sight is toward the central focal point. Perceived lines in the rectilinear design carry the eye in one direction, while the protruding points in the angular design slow the eye's movement. Mass in design, mass is measure of visual size. Mass describes the space or area occupied by an object or group of objects. Planting bed, house, patio, and arbor all have mass, as do individual plants in a garden. The objective in design is to balance the mass of objects in the landscape. Individual components should be sized according to their surroundings. For example, planting beds are sized in relation to the adjacent lawn, house, or hardscape. Likewise, the mass of individual plants or groups of plants within a bed need to occupy a space proportionate to the overall planting. The mass of open space, void, and filled space is balanced in both designs. Likewise, the central fountain, which serves as a focal point, is appropriately sized for its surroundings. Form refers to the shapes of objects in a landscape. Many forms exist in a landscape, such as the rectilinear shapes of the house, walkways and driveways. Plants, topography, and hardscape delineate other forms that may include squares, circles, triangles, or irregular shapes. Plants also have individual form ranging from pyramidal to rounded, vase-like to flat or spreading. When plants are placed into groups, they take on a new form as a group which may be quite distinct from the individual shape. Landscape forms evoke emotions and create ambience. Rectilinear forms feel structured and formal, circles are soft, triangles are strong, and irregular shapes are casual and free. We can take advantage of form in a design to set the mood of a landscape. The rectilinear design has a formal, orderly feel, while the angular design is more relaxed. When designing landscape, forms strive to complement the style of the house. Voids, empty spaces or voids also fill a distinct area and contain visual mass. Voids also encompass a particular space or form in the landscape. During designing, empty space is more important than occupied space. The voids in a landscape serve to balance and unite individual components. Too often, lawns, patios, or other voids are composed of leftover space. A more effective approach is to intentionally design the voids. When laying out bed lines or establishing new hardscape elements, try designing the empty space rather than the occupied. Planting beds, hardscape, and focal points will fall into place around these intentional spaces. 6.7.4 Landscape Grounds Maintenance. Landscape grounds maintenance is how an organization looks after the areas around their facilities to ensure everything looks good and functions properly. Just like the assets and equipment inside the buildings, the physical space around the facilities needs attention if an organization hopes to maximize its value. Grounds maintenance includes trimming trees and hedges, keeping walkways clear, cleaning out gutters, installing and maintaining fencing, picking up litter, controlling pests and invasive species, removing snow, watering lawns, trees, and plants, maintaining irrigation systems. Benefits of grounds maintenance. On top of making everything look good, the right grounds maintenance delivers a lot of additional benefits, including avoiding damage to your buildings and cutting energy costs. Reduce the risk of damage to foundation by controlling the amount of water in the soil around buildings. Soil settlement leads to vertical cracks in the foundation and opens up to the possibility of water leaks. Horizontal cracks are more serious. Ground planting trees in the right spots help protect buildings from the elements, making it to keep them cool in the summer and warm in the winter. When it's hot outside, trees provide shade. And when it's cold, they block the wind. 6.8 Laws, permits, licenses. According to the Indian Constitution, state legislatures are empowered to make laws and regulations regarding to a number of subject matters, including water, land, rights in or over land, land tenure, transfer and alienation of agricultural land, as well as the preservation, protection and improvement of stock and the prevention of animal disease. The architect, interior design consultants, HVAC engineers, mechanical and electrical consultants, plumbing consultants, structural engineers have to complete the construction drawings consisting of the blueprint of the facility, which is a series of drawings showing the layout of the parts of the building. The complete set of blueprints consists of the following: 1. Plot and survey drawings delineate the legal boundaries of the plot. 2. Contour plans that give a graphical representation of the land parcel. 3. Floor plans that are drawn on the scale giving a bird's eye view or a horizontal perspective of the various spaces on a given floor, such as rooms, corridors, lift locations, shafts and so on. 4. Elevation drawings, as the name suggests, give a view of a building as seen from one side and is used to describe the external appearance or facade of a building. 5. Perspective give us a three-dimensional view of a building. 6. Cross-section or simply section drawings give a vertical perspective and highlight the relationship between different levels of a building. 7. Mechanical drawings or technical drawings enable dimensions and measurements to be taken, giving details of plumbing, sewage, electrical, TV cabling, telephone wiring, AC, ducting, and hot and cold water supply system details. Simultaneously, site development has to be undertaken prior to commencing construction. This involves demarcating of boundaries of the plot, soil testing, mapping the contours of land, leveling the land parcel, marking of the building footprint and driveways, landscaping, installation of electrical power load, water connection, constructing temporary buildings and facilities, and so on. Upon completion of site development, it is mandatory for the developer to give a notice to the municipal corporation advising them of his intent to commence construction. The municipal corporation grants permission to the developer by issuing an IOD and CC. Intimation of disapproval, IOD, and CC, commencement certificate. IOD is a letter of approving the project, authorizing the development subject to the restrictions mentioned in the approval letter, whereas a CC permits the developer to commence construction activities on the plot of land subject the IOD. Generally, the IOC and CC are given simultaneously by the corporation. In certain states, IOD is not required and a CC issued by the corporation is the only document required by the hotel developer to commence construction. These permissions suffice only till the construction of plinth level. The free dictionary.com defines the plinth usually rests directly on the ground. A plinth is the base or platform upon which a column, pedestal, statue, monument or structure rests. Once the plinth level is reached, the grid of the building, consisting of column and beams upon which the entire load of the building will rest, is completed. Once the construction starts, it takes approximately 12 to 18 months for the hotel structure to be completed. An NOC from a qualified engineer certifying that the building's structural design meets all the safety standards, that the materials used, the workmanship and the methodology employed for construction work are of specified standards so as to protect the building from natural hazards such as earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, landslides and floods is submitted to the municipal corporation. During the last 6 to 8 months of the project, the interior design team and the operations teams coordinate the final finishing of the hotel to make it operational. The project team initiates the process for securing a partial completion certificate (PCC) from the municipal corporation. As the name suggests, a PCC issued by municipal corporation authorities certifies that the hotel structure has complied with all the requirements laid down in the IOD and CC has fulfilled all the norms outlined in the National Building Code 2005. In order to secure a PCC, the developer has to obtain NOCs from all the agencies that have been listed earlier. Various certificates required to be submitted to secure a PCC: Structural Engineer's Stability Certificate, Architect's Supervision Certificate, NOC from Airport Authority of India, NOC from Chief Fire Officer, NOC from Chief Engineer, Electrical Department, Electricity, NOC from Inspector of Lifts, Department of Electricity, Drainage Completion Certificate, Storm Water Drains, Drainage Completion Certificate, Sewage, Rainwater Harvesting Completion Certificate. Successful installation of STP, Sewage Treatment Plant, Certificate. Boiler Inspection Certificate under the Indian Boilers Act, 1923 and the Indian Boilers Amendment Act, 2007, installation of storage tanks for LPG, HST furnace oil under the Indian Explosives Act, 1884, clearance from the Water Department authorizing water connection, NOC under the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, 1974 and the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Amendment Act, 1988 to release waste water from the premises, NOC under the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, 1981 to operate diesel-operated generators and boilers, NOC from the Electricity and Pollution Control Board for the installation of DG sets. Conforming to noise pollution standards, granting of a PCC enables the facility developer to apply for various operational permissions and licenses. Operational stage. Upon completion of the building interiors, the PCC is converted to a completion certificate by the municipal corporation. Once a completion certificate is received, an application is moved for securing an occupancy certificate (OC) from the municipal corporation. It is at this stage when all the required permissions to make the hotel operational have to be obtained from various government agencies. Occupancy certificate issued by the municipal corporation certifies that the building has incorporated all the safety standards and is in a habitable condition. An OC enables the residents to secure water, electricity, drainage, and sewage connection from the appropriate authorities. 6.9 Summary. This chapter covered the fundamentals of infrastructure development, focusing on architectural design, building types, impact of facilities on the building design, building, exterior facilities aspect, and it is not expected that students of facility management need to become architect, but however, they must have sufficient knowledge understanding of the check your progress for subjects dealt in this topic to enable them to supervise infrastructure development, which as a result provides an effective, efficient facility. This chapter also gives a detailed overview of parking areas, landscaping grounds, laws, permits, licenses, which are important aspects to be known by the facility manager. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.